Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, staff. I see that we have quorum, and I call this regular meeting for the Town of Pelham Council for Tuesday, September 6th, 2016, to order. Before we begin the meeting with the singing of the national anthem, I wanted to recognize two individuals that provided service to Niagara Region and to the town. It was sad to learn the passing of Brian Merritt last week. He was the regional chair for the region of Niagara from 1991 to 1997. He began his political career in 1978 and served as an elected alderman for the city of Niagara Falls. And then he served as regional councillor for the city of Niagara Falls from 85 to 91. He was involved in a number of committees and boards and was also the chair of the Niagara 911 committee when bringing 911 service to Niagara Region. Following his being chair of Niagara Region, he also got involved and was in the Parks Commission, and he was the chairman of the Parks Commission from 1997 to 2003. He was also on the Niagara College Board of Directors, and after retiring, he was named CEO of the Niagara 1812 Bicentennial Legacy Council. The town of Pelham's flags were flown at half staff, in his memory last week. We're also saddened to hear of the passing of another member of our community, and that's Gerald Shields. Mr. Shields served on this council for 14 years in total, and he was on the first council of the town in 1970. He passed away at Maple Park Lodge in Fort Erie on August 21st at the age of 84. He was the owner of the Dane City Tavern for over 20 years and a dedicated employee of Whiting Manufacturing. The flags were lowered in the town in memory of him, and a commemorative plaque has been ordered for the council chamber, which we will install in the back as we have done for others. So I would ask now all to make a moment of silence in memory of Mr. Merritt and Mr. Shields. Thank you very much. I would ask all to rise and for Councillor Papp to lead us in the singing of the national anthem.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Councillor Papp. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It has been moved by Councillor Ribiak, seconded by Councillor King, that the agenda for the September 6, 2016 regular meeting of council be adopted. Are there any changes to the agenda? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. That is any conflicts of interest that any members of council may have. Do any members have any conflicts? Councillor Junkin.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, when we move in camera item 1A, I will have to withdraw as I have a relative who might be involved.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's so noted. And I believe there were no other conflicts. And that I'd ask the clerk to note that in the minutes. Thank you. Now we move to presentations. We have, and delegations. We have a few this evening. Very pleased to introduce Lynn Cunningham from the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, Council, town staff, and attendees, my name is Lynn Cunningham, and I'm the Account Manager of Stakeholder Relations for MPAC for here in Niagara. Also with me tonight is Michael Moore. He's the Valuation Manager for the Niagara region, and I'm here to deliver the 2016 assessment update for MPAC. Property assessment and taxes are a product of an integrated system involving the provincial government, including the Assessment Review Board, MPAC, and the municipalities and Ontario taxpayers. While each has a distinct role and interest in the assessment and taxation process, success of the system depends on all parties defining their responsibilities and working together effectively. The provincial government, so the Ministries of Finance and Municipal Affairs and Housing, are the primary ministries responsible for setting assessment and taxation legislation, policies, and determining education rates. The province also operates an independent assessment appeal tribunal, the Assessment Review Board. MPAC is responsible for determining the current value assessments for more than 5 million properties with an estimated total value of $2.3 trillion. Each year, municipalities are required to make a host of decisions that shape the local property tax regime by affecting how the property tax burden is distributed across the taxation base. Every 4 years, MPAC updates property assessments to reflect a legislative valuation date. For this year's assessment update, the legislated valuation date is January 1st, 2016. So every property owner in Ontario will receive a property assessment notice showing the estimated value of their property as of January 1st, 2016. The new assessed values will be used by municipalities for property taxation over the next 4 years, 2017 through 2020. MPAC's been preparing for the 2016 assessment update since early in 2014, 2 years earlier than previous assessment updates. MPAC has been working internally with stakeholders to effect real change, and some of these changes include a staggered mailing property assessment notices over a 21-week window beginning back in April, new advanced disclosure and consultation processes that will achieve greater transparency and shared understanding about property assessments with taxpayers and municipalities, a redesigned property assessment notice that incorporates plain language and design principles, a new Municipal Connect application that provides municipalities with early access to preliminary 2016 values. We've also redesigned the About My Property application that provides taxpayers with easy access to market trends and detailed property assessment information. MPAC has completed a greater number of sales investigations and quality checks than past assessment updates. Not only has MPAC completed more sales investigations and data quality checks in preparation for this year's assessment update than past assessments, we've also visited and reviewed properties for the reasons on the slide. Across the province, we've reviewed and updated more than 2.8 million data elements, and in Pelham alone, we've updated 3,800. Why is this important? Accurate data results in accurate current assessments. One of our key initiatives is actively engaging municipalities and property owners in the 2016 advanced disclosure and consultation process. Disclosure is about transparency and shared understanding. It's our commitment to share information early, providing an opportunity for engagement ahead of the roll return. It's a no surprises approach. Early in 2016, we posted Level 1 methodology guides on mpac.ca for 11 special purpose property types such as food processing and auto assembly plants. Additional guides will be available this year for 22 additional business properties such as retail properties, golf courses, as well as farms. Level 2 market valuation reports explain how the valuation methodologies have been applied to a group of properties. The reports provide relevant market data information about key components that were derived at the property type. And Level 3 is property-specific valuation information. This is detailed valuation information and property level details available to owners and municipalities through About My Property and through detailed reports directly from MPAC. There are many benefits to advanced disclosure. Municipalities are encouraged to actively participate in the advanced disclosure and consultation process. The success of the advanced disclosure is dependent on the feedback that we receive from property owners and municipalities. And over the coming months, your staff will continue to receive invitations to review information and participate in these discussions. While disclosure won't prevent the filing of appeals, it will level the playing field to ensure there are no surprises over the next 4 years. This year, residential property owners in Pelham and all of Niagara have received their 2016 property assessment notice. It was mailed August 2nd, 2016. Notices for farm will be mailed across the province on October 11th, and multi-res and business notices will be mailed October 18th. The current value assessment shown on the notice will serve as the basis for the municipal taxation over the next 4 years, 2017 through 2020. So it's really important that people read and pay attention to their notice. MPAC's key touch point with property taxpayers is the property assessment notice. As part of our commitment to enhance the residential taxpayer's experience, we have redesigned the notice to incorporate simple explanation of property assessment and valuation process and assessment phase-in. Enhancements and changes to the notice were based on feedback we received through qualitative and quantitative research with residential taxpayers across Ontario, as well as consultation with the Ministry of Finance. What's new? The date the notice was issued by MPAC is clearly displayed on the top. We've incorporated that plain language and design principle. The 2016 assessed value and change in assessed value from the 2012 assessment update are highlighted. The first page of the notice includes MPAC's contact information, including the About My Property website. A clear explanation of phased-in assessment values and the request for reconsideration deadline for each taxation year are highlighted. A simple explanation of the Ontario Property Assessment System information and the valuation process and the 5 key factors that affect value are displayed at the top of page 2. Information about market trends, the percent change in each municipality can be found in the market trends area on About My Property. The notice provides a secure login for property owners to view detailed information about their property and other properties in the neighborhood. The roles and responsibilities of MPAC and the provincial government and the municipalities are highlighted on the second page. What did change? So in December 2015, the province passed Bill 144 Budget Measures Act, which introduced the new request for reconsideration deadline. The legislative change moves the request for reconsideration deadline to 120 days from the issue date shown on the property assessment notice. So for residential property owners in Pelham, the reconsideration deadline is November 30th, 2016. The early notice delivery and reconsideration deadline will enable MPAC to complete request for reconsideration reviews before the assessment rolls are delivered to municipalities, providing greater stability and transparency. How can I learn more about my assessment? So, About My Property is the online tool that connects property owners and MPAC. We simplified the application based on feedback from property owners to incorporate easy-to-use interface and improve navigation features. Our goal is to improve communication and transparency by enabling owners to learn more how their property is assessed and compare with other values in their neighborhood. Using About My Property, property owners can learn about market trends in their neighborhood, including residential sales prices and sale trends in other neighborhoods and municipalities across Ontario. They can read, save, and print copies of their property assessment notice. They can review detailed information about their property and validate property details and file a request for reconsideration if they disagree with their assessment. They can access information for up to 100 properties and detailed information for 24. Resolving assessment concerns. There are 5 steps. The first step 1 is to ask yourself, could I have sold my property for the assessed value on January 1st, 2016? If yes, then no further action is required. If no, then MPAC is committed to working with you to get it right. Step 2 is to visit aboutmyproperty.ca to review the information MPAC has on file for your property. If you still have questions, please contact MPAC by phone, fax, mail, or email. Step 4, for residential property owners that disagree with their assessment, they can file a request for reconsideration using About My Property by mail or by fax. This is a free review. If an individual is not satisfied with the outcome of the request for reconsideration review, they have the option to file an appeal with the Assessment Review Board. The board charges a $75 fee to file a residential appeal. We're here to help. Please contact MPAC with any questions you have regarding your property assessment. As part of our advanced disclosure, MPAC has redesigned the Municipal Connect application to offer municipalities a modern and flexible way to access real-time assessment information, including the preliminary 2016 assessed values. The values for residential properties have been available in Municipal Connect beginning back in April. The preliminary values for other property types will be made available as soon as they're finalized. We have provided a suite of pamphlets to the municipalities and MPPs for the public. MPAC has proactively also provided stakeholders with toolkits with key information and resource material. Some have added inserts to their tax bills with our key information. All of these materials are our way to provide clear understanding around this assessment update. Many have posted links on their website and viewed our videos. New for 2016 are the market trend maps that MPAC has made accessible. We have been proactively promoting this new map feature, and I'll demonstrate. This is how it actually looks when you go in. If you simply type in Pelham, it will pop up and provide you the information. So entering the municipality in the search field, you can access the maps to your specific area, see the trends and percent changes in bubbles, and other areas can be compared. So, and the last couple of slides just refer specifically to Pelham. The first slide is the assessment change from 2016 to 27. What this is providing is the preliminary median percentage change in assessed value from 2016 to 2017. So overall residentially across the Niagara region, we're increasing approximately 3.4%, and in Pelham, it's par for average across the Niagara region. And same for single-family residential. For condominiums across Niagara region, the median percent change is 2.7, and here in Pelham, we're at 1.5. And finally, what that looks like in terms of typical assessed values. So this is the change in assessed value between the base year valuation, so the 2012 current value assessment to the 2016 current value assessment. So they're saying the typical single-family residential changed $44,000 with a typical CVA at $358,000 for the single-family detached, and for a condominium, $193,000. But every property is actually unique, but please ensure you review your notice and contact MPAC with any concerns. I appreciate being able to present to you and welcome all questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cunningham, for your presentation. Do members of council have any questions for our presenter? Councillor Junkin.
Yes. If you could go back one slide, please. I see that you have the residential and the single family, and you can be forgiven for missing this, but what was the percent increase on farmland? Do you have that off the top of your head? Because I think it's 7%.
Mr. Mayor, out to the councillor. The farm information has yet to be publicized. We're still taking this time to review the farmland information and the farm values. So we haven't actually presented out the farm percent change as of yet until those notices get generated in October. That will be when that information becomes available.
Councillor?
And will the review process, if a farmer has a question or doesn't think he's being treated fairly, is it basically the same as the residential review?
Ms. Cunningham?
Mr. Mayor, out to the councillor. It is absolutely the same. The process is to go through the RFR, the request for reconsideration process. It will be 120 days from when the notice is mailed. So that 120 day will be shown on the very tip top of the notice, like it is for the residential notices. That will be where you'll have a notice mailing date, and then you'll have the request for reconsideration deadline dates associated with the mailing address date.
And one last thing.
Okay, go
The
ahead.
reason I raise this point is because from 2010 to 2014, the commodity prices in the world were very high. Land values skyrocketed. But in the last 2 years, with commodity prices falling, I'm hoping that this is going to capture the reverse when land values fall by 15–30%. Would that happen, or would that have to be done on an individual review case?
Ms. Cunningham?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, out to the councillor. We look at it within the geographical climactic areas for farmlands, and we're analyzing the sales of farmer to farmer transactions for farms. We're guided by the legislation under the Assessment Act and OREG 28298. But definitely whatever the market is indicating, that will be what we're reflecting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Cunningham? Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation. We appreciate your service. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Councillor King, second by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved that the presentation by Lynn Cunningham on behalf of the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation regarding the 2016 assessment update be received for information. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you again for your presentation. Now we move to delegations. We have a delegation by Tim Wright, Board Chair, and Kirk Weaver, CEO of the Pelham Public Library. And there are other members of the library board who are here. And I would ask you to also introduce them, please.
Good thing I checked. One slipped in without me seeing earlier. Which is the important button?
No.
That one there, okay. Thank you, Mayor Dave, councillors, staff, and guests. Thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation. Before getting into the presentation, I'd like to acknowledge that besides myself and Kirk, there are two other board members present, Joe Bouchard, Vice Chair of the board, and Alyssa Murray, who's a board member on the board for the last year and a half. We asked for the opportunity to make this presentation for a number of reasons. First of all, after the last election, a new board was appointed by town council, and there was a fair bit of turnover in terms of new members on the board for at that point in time, and since then an additional new member. So the board currently is quite different. I was going to say new, but we have had 18 months worth of experience. But by virtue of so many new people, there's also new capabilities, new skills, and new outlooks. So we think we have some interesting things underway that we wanted to pass along. Also, we're 8 months through our current fiscal year, and time is coming for operational planning to get underway and budgets to be done. So again, it's an opportune time to give an update on what has been going on at the library. And finally, for the last year or so, we've been working on a strategic plan. For the library. We're hoping to conclude that process this fall, and again, an opportunity, a good time for questions, comments, and feedback. So I'd like to give the council an update in terms of where we currently are at and what the future looks like. And although I have slides, I'm really not going to refer to them directly as I go through the presentation, so I will try and skip through them in an appropriate order. But this material has been passed out to council members, so I'd encourage you to have a look at it, and it's helpful information post presentation. Okay, where are we as a library? We as a board feel we are in a very strong position currently. Financially, for the past 2 fiscal years, we have been able to run modest surpluses on our budget. So we've been able to carry out our service responsibilities, as well as having a little bit left over to be able to make one-time expenditures on things that are required but aren't part of the budgeting process. So, and we're looking forward to a third fiscal year. We're on track for a third modest surplus this year. So we've been able to have stability in our programs and stability in our staffing and service to the public. Also, in terms of volumes, and there is a slide that refers to volumes, we have held steady, or in some interesting areas, increased our service volumes over the last year or two. The traditional things that are expected of a library, we are providing service to many residents, providing a broad range of services to the population of Pelham, and doing it, as I say, in a fiscally responsible way. In addition to many of the things listed there, we've also been very active in terms of alternate programming, and I'll talk somewhat about that later, but it's also an important part of the role that we currently carry out, offering special sessions for a variety of activities. So, as I say, currently we feel we're in a strong position, that the management has worked strongly. And actually, an additional thing I should have mentioned earlier is, at the time that the new council came in 18 months ago, we also had a new CEO start, which has had, in our view, a very positive impact on how we do our business as a board. So another key element of 18 months of work that we've carried out. So what does the future hold for us? As I said, we're in the process of our strategic plan, so a caveat is perhaps what I say may be altered somewhat by the strategic plan. I don't think so, but until the strategic plan is completed and we're starting to implement it, it's no final decision on some of these things. One of the key changes in libraries, not just our own, but throughout the profession, and certainly we're trying to follow that, is that libraries are trying to reach outwards, trying to get out of the building and become an integral part of the communities that they serve. And we are trying to practice this. We have a communications plan where we're communicating much more frequently and much more directly with our populations, informing them about the library, what's going on at the library. We're developing outreach programs where we're going to them or inviting more people into the library. So the current trend is that rather than just being an educational or an informational resource, libraries are reaching out to become cultural and social hubs for their community. An interesting aside on that, in terms of a session that I went to at a conference, traditionally the statistics you see from libraries relate to service delivery of people through the door, books out the door, various things like that. Some of the larger libraries that have many more resources than we do are starting to think about trying to get indicators related to community well-being, trying to track things over time in terms of what impact can a library have on a community, and then being able to look down the road as to whether the library has had that positive impact on a community. Much beyond the reach of ourselves, but certainly an interesting aspect of the work of libraries to keep in mind. In terms of our outreach, the next couple of slides talk about that. One activity that we're particularly proud of is the teen advisory group that has been established by the library, including teens from throughout Pelham. It has been very active. It is supervised by one of our staff members, but they have come up with several ideas as to how to draw teens into the work of the library, and we're very encouraged by how that has developed over the last year. The library is making great use of book clubs, not only directly in the library, but outside the library, making resources available to a wider part of the population to be able to have access to books and to be able to creatively discuss and analyze the various books. Another element of our outreach has been bringing speakers in on topical things happening within our community and also happening within our society, and they have been well attended and very well received. Another outreach element that we've been emphasizing is fundraisers. Just in the last couple of weeks, we had our annual book sale, and I'm pleased to say that the returns this year have been a record for the library in terms of our fundraising. We reached $4,700 for the 1 week of the book sale. But that's actually a pattern of what we have been doing in terms of those types of outreaches. Another fundraising activity that we have had is trivia nights. First one being last year in 2015, which first attempt sold out and was very positive in terms of the cash flow coming in. Had a second trivia night this year, made additional space available. I think it was maybe 3 additional tables, which would have been an extra 25 people or so. Again, sold out, and I was told that there was capacity in terms of people asking for tickets, that we could have gotten even bigger. Now, I'm not sure whether that shows that Pelham has a lot of trivia nerds in the population, or whether it's a sign that the message is getting out and there is growing support for the library in the community. And I like to think that it's mostly the latter that's exhibiting itself in the attendance at the fundraisers and the support being shown to the library. The next item I'd like to talk about is the Maple Acre branch. Certainly a highlight of the activities of the library currently. I was fortunate enough to be able to be on the advisory committee and take part in the design discussions related to the Maple Acre branch. And the design that has come out, I was impressed by the discussions, and I was impressed by the results that came out. Maple Acre is now going to be a library that has not only space for books and people to go and get a book or to read a book, but it's going to have meeting room space. It's going to have expanded space for books. It's going to have expanded space for computer facilities. It's going to have a children's activity area. So many more capabilities for that library, which not coincidentally do match the types of outreach that we're wanting to do in the community. We're wanting to be able to bring the community in, not only for library activities, but for general community activities as well, through the meeting facilities, plus the ability to do more programming within Fenwick itself, so that community can have the same advantage as Fonthill itself in terms of the library not only just being there for information, but there for cultural and social activities as well. So the Maple Acre project fits in very nicely with what we see as a vision for the library in general heading forward. Speaking about Maple Acre, and actually just in terms of what our plans are related to that, and I'm not sure what sort of briefings council has had, but we are told that construction is still underway, although looking at the concrete currently there, it doesn't look much like a library to me, but I'm sure it's going to be there. But it is supposed to be finished on time in December, and we're looking for the library to be able to be open with opening ceremonies and utilization of the library early in January. So that's the timetable we're working to on that. But in terms of talking about the positives related to Maple Acre, I'd like to refer back to the main branch in this plaza here, the branch that has been in Fonthill for 30 years, which it's been a great facility for the town of Pelham, but a lot of things have happened in the town in 30 years, both in terms of population growth, where the concentrations are, what the activities are of a library. So what was built 30 years ago as a tremendous facility does have some shortcomings, which we are hoping to address, and I'd refer back to the surpluses that I talked about. We do have some resources, and we have had some discussions and a little bit of planning as to how we can utilize the facility we have with what I describe as modest expenditures, modest in comparison to Maple Acre for sure, and modest in comparison certainly to a new library type of thing. But we have some ideas, we have some money available ourselves, we have submitted some grant applications hoping we can get some support outside the community through some of the government programs that are available. And basically it's to utilize the basement to a greater extent, be able to move a lot of staff functions to the basement as opposed to being on the main floor, because it really is programming space for services to the public that is being squeezed currently So that will be one of our initiatives over the next while. Certainly, we're not going to proceed without support in addition to the funds we have, but to let you know that that's another key initiative of the library somewhere in the future, maybe in the short-term future, perhaps a little longer than that, but another initiative. So in conclusion, we wanted to update you on what our thinking is, where we think we're sitting in terms of our capabilities, what our successes have been, what some of our challenges might be for the future, and basically we will be working to ensure that we fulfill the evolving role for library in the town of Pelham. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wright, for your presentation. We certainly appreciate your service and the service of members of the board as well. Do members of council have any questions for our board chair? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, you did indicate there's an increased number of card holders that are currently enrolled. How many of these are from out of town, or are there any?
Able to answer that? Mr. Weaver, perhaps, might?
Not right down to the number of percentage.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are out-of-town cardholders. I don't have the exact number for you. It's a relatively low percentage, and they do pay a $40 fee if you're a non-resident.
Yes, I remember that debate. So, okay, I just curious on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll make one confession, though, that our previous chair, who had to retire for having moved into Welland, we gave her an honorary membership and she didn't have to pay
And
for
rightly
it.
so.
That's a confession we have to make.
Thank you for her years of service. That's a good parting gift. Other questions, Councillor Rybak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and an excellent presentation. Thank you. Look forward to seeing a plan for the Fonthill branch that includes obviously provision for expanding space for staff functions. Are you looking at Maple Acre as a place to spread some of that activity to, in order to alleviate pressure on Fonthill and perhaps to add to the hours that Maple Acre may be open?
I can give you a general answer, but I'll turn to Kurt to give you a little bit more specific answer.
Oh, you want the specific one first? Okay. We are looking at a number of different models for staffing. And as you know, we did present a budget proposal that was accepted in 2016 for additional hours for the projected opening period at the time. We would likely, the board hasn't seen the budget presentation yet, so there aren't specifics to provide, but we would likely present an expansion of those same number of hours from the current 14 to 28, and the staffing model around that would be primarily for the additional cost would be for the circulation person, and then if there's any additional people, it would be from the existing programming. It would be programming cost, and they're already existing, so we would be offering programming because we would now have the space out there, so that wouldn't be an additional cost. And we're still working on estimates for any operating utility costs that might change, but they would be the smaller portion of the cost that might change as a result of a larger facility. It's a larger facility, but we're also hoping we'll get significant efficiencies over what was in the old building.
Right. Thank you. So you are looking at synergies that are available as a result of having the additional space. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Terrific. Thank you. Good to hear.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Percy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I see in one of your slides you mentioned that you're contributing to the achievement of the downtown master plan. And one of the visions of the downtown master plan was to have the library main branch stay in the central core. Is it your plan to bring forward at the 2016 budget meetings
17.
a business plan, or 17 budget meetings, a business plan with respect to the renovations and what have you? Or are you deferring that to a later date?
The renovations, the reference to the downtown master plan, as I understand it, that's conceptual and long-term, and I think the library board is committed to working with the town to help that evolve. And as you mentioned, the library being part of downtown is a part of that plan, and so we're prepared to participate in whatever that looks like over the next 15, 20 years of that plan. For the more immediate renovations, we're looking to extend the life of the existing building to the extent that we can while that master plan evolves. So there's no particular master plan or business plan other than from previous facility studies, there was some recommendations that if you use the space in the basement, create some more space for staff, you free up some space on the main floor for programming space and public space. And that's essentially the plan that we put together. There's allocations in the 2016 capital budget that we presented that are subject to receiving grant funding. We've applied for a couple of grants through Canada 150 earlier this year, awaiting results. But the library board has set aside some funds for renovating the circulation desk to make it more efficient and effective and streamline some of the processes there, as well as basement renovations, which would free up some space to renovate the current staff break room, which would be moved to the basement, as well as some rejigging of the existing meeting room space that would be used for public programming. So those are the two applications more immediately that we have, and they're subject to receiving grant funding before we can go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Councillor?
Just as a follow-up to that and be more specific, given that the facility is owned by the town and the town has taken the view that major capital expenditures are the responsibility of the town, will you be looking to the town to cover off those shortfalls from the grant portion and using library funds to provide furnishings within those capital improvements? Or has the library board not fleshed out the business plan to that extent yet?
The library board has not fleshed out to that level of detail. It's been briefly discussed at a recent board meeting, but there's been no decisions made, and anything like that would likely be part of our 2017 capital presentation. And hopefully in that time frame, we will also hear back on the results of our grant applications to see if we have a need to ask for town contributions. I guess one area specifically that we might look at, and I think it's already in the town's long-term plan, is for the elevator and lift. It's going to be an accessibility requirement. It's in their longer-term plan. If we're successful in grant applications, that's one area where the town, they're already planning to contribute. It may be a matter of timing at that point, where it is in the town's long-term master plan. But if we could do all of the work at one time, it may result in a net cost savings. But that's still to be discussed.
Certainly
thank
the
you.
long and the short of it is that it is dependent on funding. There are things that would be helpful. There are things that we'd like to go ahead with, but the timing of that is certainly, and actually the scope of it is certainly dependent on funding. As Kirk has explained, there's some sources that we're going after, but we really don't see ourselves proceeding with something that we think will extend the current life of the building a reasonable amount into the future. So if the town is open to that type of discussion, certainly that's a source that we'd be willing to present what we have and get feedback and have a dialogue.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just by way of a comment, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I know it's questions, but I would encourage the library board to bring forward at the capital budget or at the budget presentations their business case, perhaps a floor plan, perhaps a suggestion as to how long that might extend the useful life of that building, so that we as council and staff will have a concept and it gets worked into we plan longer term than just 1 year at a time. So if it's not this year, it'd help us to scope it out for future years.
That's helpful advice.
Thank you, Councillor. And as our representative on that board, we'll count on you to work through that. As mentioned, I did recall it is in the long-term plan for the town, elevators, etc. So we look forward to that. And so thank you very much for explaining that to the councillor and others. I just have a really sort of mundane question, and that's about the public computers. Every time I go in there, they're always packed and full, and it says the use is up. Use is about 48%, 41%. How do you measure that usage? Is that...
We track it in 30-minute blocks. When you come in, you get assigned a 30-minute block, so that's considered a use.
Okay.
There are periods of time during the day when they aren't used, I know, but we
Surprising.
do often have, at certain times of the day, we have waiting lists
Right.
so that must be when you're coming in.
Probably. Okay,
Pick a
thank you.
different time. and
Yeah, maybe.
our numbers will go up.
And the other was, you didn't touch on it, but it's in your presentation, Mr. Wright, about an endowment fund established. Can you elaborate just a little more? Is that one has been set up, and we just hear a little bit more about that?
The endowment fund that we have set up is through the Niagara Community Foundation.
Good.
We have utilized donated money from the past, figuring that having the endowment fund will set us up for the future. It's certainly not an element that we're drawing on now, but we're being careful in terms of the funds that we utilize for that. And as I say, it has been set up using previously donated funds.
So folks can donate specifically to that endowment fund.
Yeah, and I think through the mayor, the intent is once our current fundraising campaign is completed, we'll do a more public launch of that endowment fund. But it's part of the board, from my perspective, the board's overall move from being more proactive, thinking about the future and future
Absolutely.
revenue sources from a previously reactive perspective.
Right, I wholeheartedly agree, so thank you. Pleased to see that. Thanks very much for your presentation. It has been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor King. Be it resolved that the delegation by T. Wright and K. Weaver on behalf of the Town of Pelham Public Library Board be received for information. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. I think the date there was wrong, 15. Thank you. Thanks again, and thanks for members of the library board being here. Thank you. Thanks for your service. Now we move to another delegation. Mr. Miller, you've been very, very patient. Thank you very much for joining us. Bob Miller, Board Chair of the Alzheimer's Society of Niagara. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me again.
You.
Mayor, members of council, town staff, and members of the public, as Mayor Augustine has said, my name is Bob Miller, the Chair of the Alzheimer's Society of Niagara Foundation. I'd like to thank you all again for allowing me to appear again this year and speak to you about our annual coffee break, which is now in its 21st year. The Niagara Region chapter of the Alzheimer's Society originally inspired Coffee Break, which has become the longest-standing national annual fundraising event. We have several national fundraising events every year, but this is our biggest one, and we stole this from the Scottish Alzheimer's people who used to have tea breaks, and now we have coffee breaks in Canada. It's perfect, along with lots of donuts. Thousands of coffee breaks are held each year, and since its inception, this campaign has raised more than $19.5 million to support the work of the local Alzheimer's societies across Canada. National Coffee Break Day is next Thursday, September 15th. It's expected that more than 10,000 coffee breaks will take place across the country on that day. In the Niagara region, our campaign will kick off that day at 11:30 a.m. with a flag raising and barbecue at the Niagara Regional Police Headquarters in St. Catharines. It was supposed to be the Niagara Regional Police Headquarters in Niagara Falls, but I understand perhaps the intervention of an overzealous building inspector prevented that from happening. I understand from discussion.
The other kind.
I'm sure that wouldn't have happened in Pelham, but in any event, it happened in Niagara Falls. But anyway, our honorary chair is Chief McGuire of the Niagara Regional Police Service. Members of the Niagara Marine Industry Charitable Council will be in attendance to jumpstart the campaign with their generous annual donation. Actually, these people have really stepped up to help us, and they actually, through collections on the ships in the canal system and by various events that they have every year, they raise about a third of the money we make on Coffee Break. What does the campaign mean for residents of the Niagara region? In the Niagara region, this number keeps going up. There are now over 9,600 people experiencing a progressive dementia, and the number of cases continues to grow. Dementia, and I'm sure all of you have some connection with this, it doesn't discriminate. It can affect anyone regardless of background, education, lifestyle, or status. The number of Canadians living with dementia is growing, and it's growing fast. Right now, there are 564,000 Canadians living with dementia. In only 16 years, we expect this number to rise to almost 1 million, an increase of 66%. In addition, the high cost of the disease will challenge healthcare systems to deal with the predicted future increase of cases. Currently, the combined healthcare system and out-of-pocket costs of dementia is estimated at $10.4 billion, and that is expected to increase by 60% to $16.6 billion by 2031. Dementia is also a health condition with important social implications that impact our communities. There's often a lack of awareness and understanding of dementia, resulting in stigmatization and barriers to diagnosis and care. The Honorable Rob Nicholson, MP for Niagara Falls, who's an old friend of mine, we were classmates at Queen's, he's proposed a private member's bill to establish a national dementia strategy as a solution to tackling the impact of dementia. I'm not exactly certain why this had to be a private member's bill. I think this is something that our government should have long ago taken a much more active stand about. We could see this coming. I think, as I mentioned to you all last year, people in the healthcare field now know that Alzheimer's will be to the 21st century what cancer was to the 20th century in terms of its impact on the number of people impacted and the cost of the health system. In any event, there is a private member's bill to establish that strategy as a solution. Its objective, which has since received second reading in the House of Commons, is a strategy focused on research, prevention, and improved care to provide solutions and assist those living with Alzheimer's disease or dementia, in addition to aiding family members and care partners. A recognized leader in the field of dementia care, the Alzheimer's Society of Niagara Region works in partnership with those living with dementia, their care partners, and the broader community to offer a range of programs and services that provide information, education, and support during their difficult journey. Our goal is to enhance safety and independence within the home and community, strengthen resilience and coping capacity, and ensure that people living with dementia continue to participate in family and community life for as long as possible. Our programs respond to the need for individualized and home-based support, education, socialization, and resources in the community. Recognizing that a diagnosis of dementia doesn't rob someone of their individuality or their feelings goes a long way towards respecting and engaging people with this disease and preserving their identity. Organizing or taking part in a coffee break event has the potential to raise awareness and encourage discussion about Alzheimer's disease and dementia. Hosting a coffee break, and I say this all the time, and this is partly for the cameras, partly for you, for people out in the public, hosting a coffee break is fun, it's easy to organize, and it's a great social opportunity. Our society supplies a free kit while each host supplies the people in the place. The kit includes coffee for that first pot, promotional signage and literature, as well as a donation box. And while many of the coffee breaks across Canada will take place on the National Day, you're free to choose a date that is more convenient for you, since the Niagara campaign runs from September through December, as do most of the campaigns in the country. All of the funds that we raise through our coffee breaks here in Niagara stay in Niagara to support the local programs and services. Each year, our society must raise for approximately $500,000 of a $1.9 million budget, and Coffee Break is our signature event. Thanks to this council and the people of Pelham and over 200 hosts, we raised more than $85,000 last year. This year, more than ever, we hope with the support of the people of Pelham and other communities in Niagara to reach our goal of $100,000. Life doesn't end when Alzheimer's begins. People living with dementia can continue to participate in life and contribute to their communities in their own way, even as the disease progresses. And September is World Alzheimer's Month, an international campaign to raise awareness, challenge stigma, and inspire action. And as I've said about taking action, to the people of Pelham, consider hosting a coffee break event and make your coffee count. It's a fun and simple way, and you can register, anyone can register for a coffee break kit by calling the Alzheimer's Society of Niagara Region at 905-687-3914 or visiting our website, which is alzheimerniagara.ca. I thank everyone for listening tonight, and as usual, I have a coffee break kit for Mayor Augustine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for your presentation. Thank you very much.
If there are any questions, then.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller, for the kit. Do members of council have any questions for Mr. Miller? Councillor Junkin.
Yes, Mr. Miller, I realize that the money you raise locally seems to just go to the grassroots people.
Right.
Does any of the money from any of the other coffee breaks throughout Canada does any of that money make its way into research at all?
Well, okay, there's a national, the Alzheimer's Society of Canada, which has many fundraising sources, okay? The National Society is really the one charged with research, and that is really one of their main focuses.
Okay.
So that when a person donates to us, okay, it really goes to the local programs. People can designate if they want money to go to Alzheimer's Canada. Alzheimer's Canada actually maintains some of their own fundraising programs. People may have seen that, may have come across their email or whatever. If you give money to the national entity, and I don't distinguish between the importance of these things, if you give money to the national entity, then a lot of that will go to research. We're getting to the point now that there's really only one drug that is commonly prescribed now. It's called Aricept, and it really only retards the development of dementia in people sort of stage 1 or stage 2. There's nothing that when people are more advanced that really can stop it. But there have been some, findings in the United States, and it's more than just in journals. So, it's like, we've been hearing about cures for cancer. It's encouraging and discouraging, and it's the same. We feel the same way in our field. It's sometimes encouraged, sometimes discouraged, but it's, I have some family members that are suffering, and it just is, it's a horrible thing to watch, and this is why, I'm working so hard to raise some money and make sure we have more people who are serving these people in Niagara. That's our focus in our society, obviously.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just one more thing.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor.
As you alluded to, I don't think there's anyone in this day and age that doesn't have a relative, a friend,
Right.
being taken over by this disease, and best of luck in all your efforts.
Thanks a lot. We're all living longer, which is
Yes.
one of is both good and bad. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I note that we continue to do one, and I conferred with the CAO staff. We'll be organizing one this fall again this year, and we'll let the public know about that. So thank you very much.
Mayor, if you're doing one, we sometimes go and someone can come and speak at it. Like, for
Okay.
instance, St. Catherine's is doing theirs on September 22nd, a huge thing on the front lawn. I think hopefully it won't rain, but if you would like someone to come, one of the problems, I guess, with it is that people drop in and so on and so
Yes,
forth.
yeah.
There's no sort of coordinated time. But anyway, I'm letting you know that that's
Okay,
open.
thank you very much for that option. And I did note that Lookout Ridge, which is in Uptown Font Hill, is doing one on the 20th of September, and I think that's at 2 p.m. So there's another opportunity if folks don't come to the one here when we announce that, but there's Lookout Ridge. That's right. Thank you very much for your presentation. It has been moved by Councillor Junkin, second by Councillor Papp, that the delegation by Bob Miller on behalf of the Alzheimer's Society of Niagara regarding the coffee break fundraiser be received for information. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Thanks again for your presentation, for your hard work, and thank you for the coffee break kit. Thanks. Amen. Thank you, members of council. We'll now move to minutes. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey. Be it resolved the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. Minutes of the special meeting of council of July 20th, the regular meeting of council of August 22nd, apologies, a special meeting of council August 22nd, and another special meeting of council August 22nd. Any errors or omissions in those minutes? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Now we move to consent agenda items for consideration of council. Are there any items that members of council would like to lift for separate consideration? Councillor Papp and then Councillor Junkin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to lift item 9.5.1.
Thank you. It's regarding Oshawa General Motors. Thank you. Councillor Junkin?
Lift 9.4.1
Thank you.
and if I could, 11.2.3, the cenotaph dedication.
We're not there yet.
Oh, no. Okay, that's
That will be considered separately.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak, that the following consent agenda items be received. The recommendations contained therein be approved as applicable. 9.1, presentation and recommendations arising from the Committee of the Whole meeting of, the Policy and Priorities meeting of August 22nd, 2016, and the resolution that the recommendations arising from that meeting be received and approved. Minutes for approval of committee, and those are the Policy and Priorities Committee of August 22nd and the Committee of the Whole special meeting of August 30th, 2016. Staff reports of routine nature, there's one. This is regarding the Uptown Square sign variance, and the motion be it resolved the council receive the report regarding Uptown Square sign variance, and the council approve the request for variance. Action correspondence of a routine nature. There's information regarding Child Abuse Prevention Month, and the motion be it resolved the council receive the correspondence from Family and Children's Services dated August 30th, and the council endorse and support the proclamation of the month of October 2016 as Child Abuse Prevention Month, and that the Pelham arches be lit in purple on October 1st and 2nd in recognition of this important month of awareness. We have one item from the Regional Municipality of Niagara, and that is the appointment of Niagara residents to the Senate of Canada. And the motion be it resolved that the correspondence be received, and that regarding the Regional Council and endorsed and supported. So that is that we suggest to the Government of Canada that they appoint a Niagara resident to the Senate of Canada. And finally, minutes from the Library Board meeting of June 22nd, 2016 for information. Any discussion on any of those items? Just like to say, I see that some of the members of that representing that development at Uptown Square sign variance, and very, very interesting and very exciting development. So congratulations on that. We look forward to that. Council ready to call the question on those items? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried for all of those items. Thank you. Councillor Papp, you lifted an item, and that's regarding the request for support, Oshawa General Motors.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be brief and to the point. I think we should send a letter of support to Mayor John Henry regarding this particular issue, since we in fact still do have a major GM plant here. All of us have witnessed over the past 10 years what can happen when things go south with manufacturing. Yet on the same token, we also have seen that we're about to hopefully move on to a new renaissance with the GE plant. So I would wholeheartedly, and by the way, there are still a number of employees that were laid off from the GM plant in St. Catharines who make that trek every day to Oshawa. So I think it would behoove us to send a letter of support to the city of Oshawa and the mayor as noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Is there a seconder for that receipt and support and endorse? That's moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Junkin. Any further discussion? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for raising it. And we'll be sure to do that. The next item was lifted by Councillor Junkin regarding the correspondence from C. Botari and M. Lamb regarding 1411 Maple Street.
And
Councillor?
council realizes this is the, we were discussing this, I believe, at the last council meeting of, it's where the Fenwick Railway Club has their headquarters. I can remember just after I got on council that this building was indeed cited as a heritage building. And I thought, and I could be wrong in this, but I thought that we had got some plaques and that building was ready to be plaqued. I could be wrong on that, but either way, it is a building with an interesting history. And I think that in an effort to keep its heritage preserved as much as we can, I think that this is a reasonable request to make sure when we do restore the windows and preserve them, that I don't think it's asking too much to hire a qualified conservationist and lead us in the reconstruction of said. That's my feelings on it.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not sure, Councillor First, that it is a heritage property designated yet, and unfortunately Ms. Weens isn't here this evening. But initially, Ms. Botari and Ms. Lamb wanted to make a presentation to council this evening, and instead of a presentation, the response back from the clerk was no, because, and I responded as well, because that's essentially what the Greater Niagara Model Railroad engineers were looking for when they made their presentation. So staff, when they presented, I think the Railroad Club indicated we need to replace the windows.
Yeah.
And we could do so by putting in $200 replacement windows and each year work our way at it. And staff instead said, no, this is as the train club knows, a very important piece of heritage in our community, and suggested that the Railway Club make a presentation to council. So it will require some budget discussions in the future. And I think also out of that, Councillor Kersey made the motion and council approved it to say we should probably also look at that lease. So I think that's where it's at. And that's why I suggested it's essentially what the Railway Club was looking for when they presented. So that's why it's just made to receive, because it's already
Okay.
in that trajectory.
My mistake then, Mr. Mayor, because I didn't hear that heritage part of it. But yeah, if that's being undertaken, that's great.
Yeah, thank you. It's in the presentation, it says they wanted a solution to the windows that is in keeping with the historic nature of the building.
Okay, great.
So thank you. And the clerk has indicated to me that it's not yet designated by bylaw.
Oh, okay, yep. Thank
So
you very
that's perhaps something that council could consider in the future as well.
Thank you.
So thank you for raising it. So it has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak. Be it resolved that the correspondence from C. Botari and M. Lamb regarding 1411 Maple Street be received for information. Any further discussion? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Thanks for your help. Next is my report for council. Sorry, council, I have to find it here. Very pleased to attend, along with the representatives from across Niagara, the GE Canada sod turning ceremony, which was held on the 26th of August. This is for the new GE Brilliant factory, as it's called, on Highway 140 near East Main Street in Welland, just south of East Main. The Premier announced at that event $26.5 million Jobs and Prosperity Fund grant. She did say the word conditional grant to help create 220 jobs at the new $265 million facility. That facility is 450,000 square feet and expected to be operational in early 2018. The investment adds to the region's support via the gateway manufacturing incentives and roadway works, etc., of about $4 million. So lots of support for this facility. And when the president of GE Canada started and went to the podium, people just started clapping and applauding, and many said that it was great to have this type of good news for the Niagara community, and indicated that hopefully future ones will continue. So there's some pictures there of the different site plan and the type of engine that they'll be constructing. Very pleased to attend the 1,000 Ball Challenge and Elimination Draw at Lookout Golf on the 28th of August. Congratulations to J.J. Alexander, who's the pro at Lookout, and Chris, who is also involved in that, and their support of Wellspring Niagara. So they raised, I think it was, I don't want to say how much it was because they were going to tell council, but they raised significant dollars for the support of Wellspring Niagara, very heartening evening, and of course, the town council was given a great round of applause for the donation of the land for the new Wellspring Niagara Center. Pleased to bring greetings on behalf of council to the Niagara Industrial Association's second annual golf tournament, also at Lookout, and very pleased to have a great working relationship with the Industrial Association, many of whom were also at that announcement by the Premier and the sod turning of the GE Canada. And along with Councillors Papp and Kersey and members of staff, very pleased to help unveil the new Rotary sign welcoming folks into Font Hill. It's a beautiful sign in keeping with the other signs welcoming people at various communities in Fenwick and Effingham and North Pelham and Font Hill and other areas. So it's a beautiful sign, a great partnership with the Rotary Club of Font Hill. Kudos to them. That's been replacing that sign that I think they put in about 13 years ago as a welcoming feature to our community. And as I said at that time, it's a great partnership with a service club that's very, very strong in our community, along with the other service clubs, and that helps make our community that strong, vibrant community, but also have that small town feel. So congratulations and thank you to Frank Adamson, past president of the Rotary Club, and for all their work. That is my report. It's been moved by Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Papp. Thank you that my report dated September 6th be received for information. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Now we move to staff reports staff reports requiring action. It's been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved, the council received the issue report, Brock University Student Union UPass Transit Agreement, and the council consider the agreement as presented. Is there any discussion? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. We look forward to continuing this agreement with Brock. Thank you for staff for negotiating that, and Brock Student Union for participating. It's been moved by Councillor Ribiak, seconded by Councillor King, that council receive the issue summary report, Niagara College UPass Transit Agreement, and the council consider the agreement as presented. Discussion? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried, and we look forward to continuing that relationship with Niagara College and their student union as well. So thank you very much. It's been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor King. Be it resolved, the council receive the report regarding the Cenotaph dedication ceremony on September 10th, and the council authorize the following road closures. Memorial Drive from Canberra Road to the westerly limit of 491 Canberra Road, Old Pelham Town Hall, from 10 a.m. Saturday, September 10th to 2 p.m. on the same day. And Canberra Road from 461 Canberra Road, which is the Pelham Community Church, to the westerly limit of 491 Canberra Road, Old Pelham Town Hall, from 10 a.m. Saturday, September 10th to 2 p.m. on the same day. Discussion? I think Councillor Junkin, you indicated you had a comment or question.
Just a couple of things. I've had a sneak preview at the site, and kudos to the landscapers and the staff. It's just an overwhelming. It's going to be so fantastic site, and it was great to see that the town we moved that one sign that obviously didn't quite fit that corner anymore. And I just can't say enough to the staff or whoever worked on this. Just come up with a real good project. I guess the only other thing is that all these readings I've done this afternoon. Is there a shuttle bus running? Did I read that someplace? A shuttle bus running from some centers,
Yeah.
and is the public aware of that? Has that been pretty well broadcast?
Thank you. I'll ask Ms. Van Ravensway to talk about the shuttle bus as well. Ms. Van Ravensway.
Yeah.
Yes, we will have shuttle buses. We have two separate shuttle buses. We have one specifically from the Legion, the Royal Canadian Legion, to the site, as well as we have the other one that will be taking people from Ridgeville Bible Chapel, as well as Pelham Center Public School to the site. as you are aware, our parking is very limited there, and because of the amount of people we expect, that is why we need the road closures for safety.
Thank you.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, when will the shuttle buses be starting to run?
Ms. Van Ravensway?
The shuttle buses will begin at 10 o'clock in the morning,
Okay, great.
and they'll run right through until 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. We look forward to that event. Any others? Part of the other reason for the road closure, in addition to the traffic, I think Ms. Van Ravensway and I and staff had a meeting about the event itself today, and Ms. Van Ravensway said they were out there today and a water truck went by and a garbage truck and you couldn't hear anything. So we wanted to make sure that we gave the event the right amount of reverence. But it is also a celebration. It's a dedication. So I'm very pleased with this recommendation that's coming before us. As well, I understand that members of the Legion and a couple of Cadet Corps, not only the Army Cadet Corps, but the Air Cadet Corps, will also be marching along the roadway. So in order to have them a safe march, the need for the road closure. So thank you very much for that. Any further questions? We look forward to a fabulous event. Hopefully the weather will be nice. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. I look forward to that event. Been moved by Councillor Junkin, seconded by Councillor Kersey. Be it resolved, the council received the summary report, Ontario 150 Community Capital Program Update. The council approved the completion of the application for Ontario 150 Capital Program for the accessibility improvements to the Peace Park as identified in the report. Comments or questions? Councillor Durley.
The timing of this is something, yes, it's money available and you have to take advantage of it when it is. However, going into, if we do get successful in this grant, does that compel us to go forward with the project, or will we be able to have a look at our finances and see, because we've got some major expenses that are currently before us, and we're looking for some grant money to help that. So if we can send for this, but not commit ourselves to actually going through with it until such time as we can explore the other financial aspects of what we're doing. I have just a bit of a jittery feeling throwing another $500,000 out there.
Okay, thank you. Let's get an answer from the treasurer. Madam Treasurer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there's several grant applications that we are applying for, and each of them will put a financial burden on the town with respect to which one goes forward first. They all seem to have the same timeline with respect to when they're finished, so it'll give us an opportunity to make sure that we are doing the project that best fits the community, but we want to apply because we don't want to lose out on any one of them. We might not get ones that we've already previous applied for, we might get this one, so we need to put it out there. We have the opportunity to say, no, we're not going to take the grant at this time, and move it forward.
So, if I understand this correctly, Mr. Mayor, there's no definite commitment to go forward with this. We're just exploring the possibilities of receiving funds.
That's correct. We would have to sign the agreement with the province or federal governments to go forward with them.
Okay, I just don't want misunderstandings, because there's some things that have been misunderstood in the past.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. And just for clarity, as Madam Treasurer, you indicated that we would have to sign agreements. So you're saying, in essence, that agreement would come back to council for approval. Is that correct?
The agreement would have to come back to council and signed by the mayor and clerk. There's also new funding coming available in October that we will be applying for as well. That's the OSIF funding, but we will use projects that we previously budgeted for, so that's eliminated some of the funds that we would have used in-house. So that'll help us determine which projects to go forward with.
Okay, thank you. Councillor?
So the review will be in order to come up with the course of action that we're going to take then at that particular point.
That is correct.
Terrific. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Anyone else to the report? Very pleased that council sought additional information, and that is in the report, and that also staff are recommending a bit of a scoped project here. I guess it meets better the criteria that were recommended, so the improved accessible pathways and ramps, the connecting pathways from the sidewalk and the parking lot, the accessible tiered amphitheater seating, I don't know if people will still be putting out their lawn chairs once the seating is in. Hopefully this will occur, but at least the seating will go in. Improve lighting, replacement benches, improve railings, and then also improve the lighting to LED in the band shell itself and repainting of that. So it's a real revitalization of the band shell and that area along the area there. So very, very pleased to see that. And again, I think it's interesting to highlight the number of people that use that park. So this is a little bit more specific to the band shell, but I think they said something like 75,000 people use that, each year sort of thing, just at programmed events in addition to others. So very, very much used facility. So are we ready for calling the question? Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. I did have one question. Ms. Van Ravensway, I presume that we'll be having requests from those groups that are involved for letters of support, et cetera. Is that part of the application process?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, we do not require letters of support for the actual application.
Okay. All right.
We meet with them.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that clarity. Now we have an item of unfinished business. It's been moved by Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Papp. Be it resolved, the correspondence from the Pelham Summerfest Committee dated August 31st, 2016 be received for information. Comments? Questions? Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, I've spoken to this issue at the last council meeting, but I'm pleased to see the openness with which the committee has responded, particularly to some of the misstatements that were presented in the Voice. I hope the public sees a copy of this and gets some clarity brought to the subject. And I look forward to the outcome of the proposal that the Summerfest Committee has put forward to engage with the business community, both for and against, and come up with a working solution that will allow this festival to go forward successfully. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to build on what was just said, I think this response needs to be made public. I think it will clear up some misunderstandings that were put out there and some things that people think happened that actually didn't happen. So I think it imperative that some way this message, either in whole or in a Cole's Notes version, gets out there so that the public can actually see what went on and what was behind the actual thing that precipitated the move, rather than the mountain that was made out of a molehill.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to Councillor Kersey. Did the committee, and for those that are watching at home, you may not have clued in because I didn't say it in the resolution, but this is regarding the Summerfest Committee response to the petition to move Summerfest from downtown and correcting a number of, to use the language, outright untrue items that were put in the local newspaper. Was it the intention of the committee that this be published, that this go to the newspaper, that, Councillor Kersey, can you comment on that? Is
Yes,
Councillor
Mr.
Durley
Mayor,
sort of raising that issue?
We did have a discussion around this. It will definitely be posted on the Summerfest website, as well as being put out through various social media. I think there was also an intention to forward it to the papers, and I would ask that perhaps we could post it on the town's website as well, so that we bring it forward in as many venues as possible.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Durley?
Is that considered as staff direction then, or?
Mr. CEO? I think if council colleagues agree with that, posting on the website.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Papp?
I just had one question. It's the Summerfest Committee recommendation to hire a third-party consultant. How are we going to handle that request? Or is that something that
Councillor Kersey, are you able to answer that? What was
I'm
the
just
committee
curious.
thinking?
We as the town has engaged in a creative problem-solving technique, we did discuss using that. We felt that it would help to crystallize the actual problem as well as get the facts out there and then come to some resolution in a creative way. So I think the intent here was that to remove that responsibility of facilitating out of the town hands so that there could be no misrepresentation with respect to the town's involvement with Summerfest. And so it was suggested that a third-party consultant be engaged. I think it was our hope that we would be looking at Mr. Bassett or Dr. Bassett or his firm representative to facilitate that problem-solving.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
I think, Councillor Papp, you're satisfied. Anything else from other members of council? Okay, thank you. So the motion before us is that we receive this item of correspondence for information. It's understood as part of that will be posted on the town's website or made available via the town's website as well. And we look forward to hearing the results of their session that's coming up with the business owners, all of the business owners in the downtown area, as you stated. So you're going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey. Be it resolved, the Council of the Town of Pelham, having given due consideration to the following bylaws, do now read a first, second, and third time and do pass, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaws. Bylaw 3779, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Niagara College Student Administrative Council Incorporated, regulating the use and outlining the service levels for student UPass privileges for the Town of Pelham pilot project for transit services for the period from September 1st, 2016 to April 30th, 2017. And two, bylaw 3780, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Brock University Student Union regulating the use and outlining the service levels for student UPass privileges for the Town of Pelham pilot project for transit services for the period of September 1st, 2016 to April 30th, 2017. And that's with the Brock University Students Union. Questions or comments? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. We do have some in-camera items, and as is our practice, we'll recess that. So it has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak. Be it resolved, the council recess the in-camera portion of the meeting and reconvene immediately following committee of the whole scheduled for later this evening. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. This meeting is recessed. We'll now take a 5-minute break before we start committee. Thank you.